One of the few heroes on the issue of the Constitution and immigration is Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama. I'm proud to call him my friend, which probably doesn't get him anywhere on Capitol Hill these days. Senator Sessions, how are you, sir?
Well, thank you, Mark. I survived working under you when you were one of the top people in the Department of Justice, so you were my boss, sort of. And I appreciate what you're doing. You do a good work every day to highlight some of these issues that people need to understand. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator. You were U.S. Attorney. I was a nice guy, wasn't I?
Yeah,
no, not really.
Okay.
I was a pain in the ass. Now, Senator, we have a little problem here. You're also a budget expert. I want to understand how this works, or if you have any ideas. If the Republicans sign off on a massive omnibus spending bill of 10 months or 12 months, surrender the power they have under the power of the purse to really influence the lawlessness of this president, and then this president, by presidential dictate, issues his imperial rules on immigration and amnesty. I mean, what leverage is left for the Republicans? I'm hoping there's something left.
Well, there may be some things, but you are raising the right point, which is the government in early December will run out of money, and Congress has to appropriate money because the president cannot spend the dime that Congress hasn't appropriated. That's one constitutional provision that hadn't been eliminated. So what we need to do is simply fund the government when it runs out in early December, but we need to simply say, as we've done and Congress has done many, many times over the years, bar any funding to execute an executive amnesty, which is going to cost millions of dollars, and it involves a complex series of things that would have to occur. And Congress has barred closing Guantanamo Bay, for example, as part of the appropriations process. We say, President, you can't spend any money to close the prison at Guantanamo Bay. I talked to Newt Gingrich the other day, and he was talking about the Boland Amendment. You remember that barred spending money to fight the communists in Central America. And that was a big fight that went on, but Congress barred that money from being spent. And so Congress clearly has this power, and the right thing to do when 80% of the American people, by polling data, show that they oppose executive amnesty, is to put in language that says, okay, we're funding the government, but we're not going to fund an unlawful abuse of power and executive amnesty that Congress has explicitly rejected. If it doesn't do that, I think Congress has fundamentally failed to defend the integrity of the institution, the fundamentals of separation of powers, and capitulated and acquiesced in the really, really bad policy.
But do you think there's a majority of Republicans in the Senate who are prepared to do that?
I think so. I mean, even the people who supported the Gang of Eight bill, the bill, and many of them have expressed open and direct condemnation of executive amnesty. So I think we do have the votes. Now, whether or not we will this year, when the Democrats in a lame duck session in January still have the majority, I don't know. But a lot of Democrats have, on the campaign trail, said they oppose this executive amnesty. So I think they're going to have to be held to account too. But if maybe the solution might be to, if we can't get a bipartisan agreement on this, to put it over till January when there's a new and stronger Republican majority in the Senate.
Is the leadership?
I think this could work. I mean, simply, don't you, as a fundamental constitutional political principle, Congress should not fund programs they don't think are worthy. And I don't believe, I think a whole overwhelming majority don't believe that we should fund President Obama's executive unlawful amnesty. And so we just shouldn't fund it. And
I'll put it to you this way, Senator. Congress should not fund its own demise. And that's what we're talking about. The power of the purse is the key power that you have. more than any other. I mean, you got the appointments clause, but I'm saying the power of the purse is what the framers talked about, starting in the House, then the Senate. If the president does this also, can you imagine the precedent that's going to be created for future presidents?
Absolutely. What if the president says, I think you're making businesses pay too much taxes. Business people, don't send in that money. I'm not going to prosecute you if you don't send it in. I mean, this conveys to the president a power the executive branch has never had, and Congress should defend its legitimate power of the purse. It is a fundamental principle, as you just said.
Well, what if somebody says to you, look, he may shut down the government if we do this, and we can't have that?
Well, there you go.
And, Senator, you see the consequences. I think we won 9 seats in the Senate and 412 more in the House. Well, you know what I mean, like 13
none
or
of them
14
campaigned for executive amnesty, did
Right. No. And the shutdown in the end, Obama did it, let's remember that. But the shutdown in the end actually didn't cost the Republicans. Sometimes you got to stand up for principle, and it seems to me the Constitution is the time to do it.
Well, you are correct about this in an even more fundamental way, I think, and that is that for Congress should not fund an unlawful action by the president.
Mm-hmm.
For heaven's sakes. The fight over Obamacare was more complex, but this one is open and shut as far as I'm concerned. And we should not be funding the president's execution of an unlawful evisceration, really, of immigration law. If he gets away with 5 to 6 million people being declared lawful, what principle, Mark, you were the top of the Department of Justice, what principle can a law officer use in the future to deal with someone who enters the country unlawfully? We will have collapsed any principle, any moral ability, I think, to enforce any immigration laws. It's a very important issue.
You know what? That is a very, very important point. It's going to eviscerate all law enforcement on the border, because what the heck are these guys going to do and these gals? You're quite right. I mean, this is so... You know what else is interesting, Senator Sessions? The media, I mean, other than conservative media, but the general media out there just reports this as a political thing. This is an attack on our constitutional structure. And the media just sits there and, this is a debate with the Republicans and the Democrats. No, it's worse than that.
You are exactly right. This is absolutely a fundamental challenge to our governmental structure, and the American people do not approve of it. They've elected people to fight against it, and it's time for us to stand up. And if the president says, well, I'm going to veto a funding of the entire United States government because you won't let me have money to spend on my executive amnesty that you refuse to pass, but I want to do anyway, then I think the American people are not going to support him. And I think any member of the House or Senate who supports that policy will pay a price eventually at the polls.
I mean, why not send them a couple funding bills? Why this omnibus bill? Why not attach that language you're talking about, that no money will be used for executive amnesty, attach it to 3 or 4 or 5 programs that he is desperate to support?
Real possibilities, except we're in this incredible abdication of congressional responsibility under the leadership of Harry Reid in the Senate, in which not a single appropriations bill has been passed. And we're not going to pass a lot of individual bills in this lame duck session. They want to pass one bill. That's pass the whole budget with virtually no amendments, no ability to question where the money is going, and they just want to pass it on the threat that if you don't pass it, the government will shut down.
Well, why don't they do it rather than agreeing to an omnibus bill that goes on for 10 or 12 months? 3 months, you guys have done it before, a continuing resolution until you get the troops in there.
I think that is a realistic suggestion. In other words, if we can't get the kind of bipartisan support we need this year, we just do a short CR to next year when we have a much better Senate and House and a stronger position, I think. But not, as you indicated in your opening remarks, a full year's continuing resolution, continuing funding of the government, shorter funding of the government, so that we can defend the legitimate interests of the American worker.
Now, you have to admit, haven't I impressed you with all this jib-jab about the budgets and so forth? I mean, I don't even work on Capitol Hill, Senator.
Well, you know the system. You've been there, and your insights are exactly sound. And so it's the power of the Congress. And I really don't think that if our members of the House and the Senate think it through, they should feel good at all in actually appropriating money by which the president could execute a policy that Congress has explicitly rejected and refused to pass. So he's saying, just like judges, you in your great book on the judges, Men in Black, the judges take the position, well, Congress wouldn't act, so judges have to act.
Exactly.
Congress acts when it refuses to act.
Exactly right.
Congress says no to President Obama on amnesty, and that's not a failure to act. That is an action.
It's a decision. And, you know, Senator, same with Obamacare. The court shouldn't be writing the word federal for federal exchanges into the statute. You've got a Congress there. If they want to write it in, they'll write it in.
Exactly.
By the way, I want to congratulate you on your tough election. You know, Nation, Jeff Sessions is so popular in Alabama, you didn't have a Democrat opponent, did you?
Well, that was good news. It's the best way to run. And I didn't have one in the primary either, so I count my blessings, I got to tell you.
You're really popular back there. By the way, you ever eat at Gibson's in Huntsville, Alabama? They have a couple of them there.
Yeah.
You ever eat there? Oh, my Lord, that's good. I don't want you to pick one. I know that causes a problem. I know you're from the other part of the state, but still, man, oh, man, my mouth's watering for that stuff.
It's great.
Yes.
I've been there a number of times.
All right. Well, Senator, my best to your wife. God bless you and keep up the fight. The nation is behind you. You know that, right?
We're going to keep battling, and I just want to hope that the American people will keep an eye, and talk to their representatives who basically, almost everyone that I know of has opposed this, and they need to be encouraged to stay firm on this issue.
Senator Sessions, God bless you. Keep up the fight. We are completely behind you on this, okay?
Thank you.
All right, take care. It's a good man. He's actually very funny in private, but he's a good man. You can hear his integrity, his earnestness. He's great. He's just been pushing this subject hard. There, make him majority leader.